Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lindsay, a member of the CK12 team, and my colleague Katie and I will be running this session on CK12 and Schoology. We're so glad that you all have joined us. Before we start, let's make sure everyone's comfortable with the Zoom webinar platform. You should see two different options on your Zoom screen, one for Q&A and one for chat. During today's presentation, whenever you have a question about CK12 that you would like our team to answer, please post it in the Q&A window. That's the window we'll be checking. We'll be typing some responses. We'll be flagging some questions for Katie to demo live. So keep all that in the Q&A. The chat window is a place where we'd love for you to have a community conversation. And I know a couple of you have already introduced yourselves. Just know, everybody, you're welcome to introduce yourself. Tell us what you're teaching. Tell us what part of the world you're in. Just make sure in that chat window that you change it to send your messages to all panelists and attendees. If you just send it to panelists, then CK12 is the only folks who can see your messages. Okay, and I will mention that we are recording this webinar and it's going to be available within 24 hours on our webinars page at ck12.org/webinars. So if you need to revisit this or you need to share it with your colleagues, there will be a recording available for you. Another thing that we've prepared for you is a resource page that's just a quick handout. You can download this from tinyurl.com/ck12schoology2020. It's a PDF that you can print off or just keep on your desktop, but it's going to review a lot of the things that Katie is going to cover today related to Schoology. So given that this is meant to be just a short webinar to highlight our integration with Schoology, we're going to jump straight into the content. So I'm going to kick this over to Katie, and I leave it up to you all to start posting questions in the Q&A as you have them.
Thanks, Lindsay. So today's session is going to cover two big things. The first is CK12 offerings. So we'll talk about our Flexbooks and related modality for those of you that are brand new to CK12, and kind of go over what you can actually assign within Schoology. And then the second half of that will be the actual integration with Schoology. So how to make sure that you have your keys and your district, or you have set up Schoology to work with CK12, and then assigning all of the content we talked about in the first part and seeing student progress within Schoology. So with that, we're gonna let Lindsay kind of give the beginning on what CK12 offers.
Sure. So I know that, Katie, you're going to do this in a live demo, but our Flexbook 2.0 lessons include text that often have embedded multimedia and questions, and they also include corresponding practice or a customized quiz. Other assignable resources, which can be found in the related modalities for a 2.0 lesson or individually across our site, include things like videos, simulations, our Plix interactives, and our real-world application. So whether a Flexbook 2.0 lesson or other learning modality, you can assign these when making an assignment directly in Schoology by clicking on Add Materials and then the CK12 app. You will need to enable grading after the assignment is made. Once live, students will access the CK12 assignment directly in Schoology and complete their work. Students will just have to click the Turn In button when they're done to submit the scores to your gradebook. So any work assigned in Schoology and completed there by students will show up in the Schoology gradebook once they submit it. You now also have access to a full class report for all CK12 assignments. This includes a heat map based on what students have completed and how they did on any quizzes, plus practice and quiz assignments have more detailed information, including time spent, skill level on practice, level of questions, and even the exact questions and answers that the students noted. So to get to the CK12 report, again, Katie's going to show you all this live in a moment, but to get to the CK12 report, you simply need to click on any assignment in Schoology and then choose the View Reports option. The Preview option will take you directly to the assignment where you can see what the students see, plus have access to insights for 2.0 Flexbook lessons. Note that only teachers can see this choice. Students are dropped directly into the assignment. So in addition to the class report, CK12 is offering insights for Flexbook 2.0 lessons. And these show you the time students spent on a lesson and what they read or explored. They'll give you the score for the quiz or skill level for practice, both for each student and color-coded for the class. And then we've recently added an engagement score to give you a sense of whether a student watched any of the embedded videos, tried inline questions, or explored included interactives. You can also see a preview here of some of our upcoming features that we're going to be launching more of here in the coming weeks, but we're doing class level insights and recommendations, just trying to make it easy for teachers to see what the students are up to and to make recommendations accordingly.
So the question becomes where to get started. If CK12 is not already showing up in your instance of Schoology, you can go to our footer and click on Tools and Apps. And then once you get to our Tools and Apps page, just scroll down until you see Schoology. And you could click on the CK12 on Schoology link to get to our form. When you open up the page with this form, either from the Tools and Apps page, or you can use this direct link, ck12.org/pages LMS integrations. You'll see the option to fill this out as a teacher or an admin IT person. Now, if you have someone that is in charge of Schoology for your whole school or district, please have them fill this out and install CK12 for everyone. That's the best, cleanest way to do that. That's the way to get the key and secret for the whole district and get it set up. If, however, you are a teacher and just using Schoology independently, you are still welcome to connect CK12. And you would do that by clicking the teacher option and then requesting your own key and secret. So just remember, if you have someone that's set up Schoology for your school or district, have them go ahead and request this and they can install it for everyone. Once installed, you should see CK12 included in the list of options for apps when you add materials to your course. So with that, I'm gonna swap over and show you what this looks like live, and we can go through some pieces. So hopefully you can see CK12 here. There's a couple different ways to explore content on CK12. So one that I love is you can click on the Explore menu, and you're more than welcome to check out any of our Flexbooks, our newer Flexbook 2.0 options, our adaptive practice, which changes and adjusts to student learning, our simulations, which are primarily for science, but there's some great ones that kind of cross math as well, or even some other areas. And our Plix Interactives, which is our own individual piece. And I will show you what these look like when we dive into a lesson itself. So you guys can see all of those parts. You can check out schools that are near you that might have already republished content, or study guides, quick overviews. These are not assignable, but all of our other kind of core content, interactives, text lessons, real world applications and practice are all assignable within Schoology. So you're welcome to do that. And then you can also see some great resources, whether that's our programming or other pieces there. So one clean option is to just kind of browse through. You could also search, you could say, I want to teach about heat and temperature, and go ahead and explore that in all of CK12. And then you can kind of work your way through. This looks like it's a lesson within a concept book. There's some practice here. There's a whole concept page that I can pull from. I can filter by type, all sorts of options. So you are more than welcome to use that piece. If you pick something like literature or social studies or something like that, that's not one of our core content and we don't maybe have as much as you'd like, you're more than welcome to click on the Community Contributed tab and go ahead and explore what other users have created and republished under our license for that as well. So all of those are options to work with, but you can go ahead and browse your way around here. You can even choose to kind of bookmark some stuff, add it to your library. I'll show you how to do that as you go through, but you see all sorts of options here. But I'm gonna start by going to our subjects option right here. And I can get there by clicking on subjects or by going back to the home page using that little icon and scrolling down. And it says, what do you want to teach today? So let's say I'm going to teach physics. I'm going to go ahead and open up our physics book. Now this is an example of physics for high school book. This is what we call our 2.0 Flexbook. You'll see here this kind of clean white background. We try to get rid of any extra noise that might be distracting for students and really drill down, and also work to make these as interactive and accessible as possible. So here, let's say I'm going through here and I want to click on this. I can click on motion in 2 dimensions, and I could click on this link for projectile motion for an object launched at an angle. And here you can see some of those different types of learning modalities that Lindsay talked about, and I mentioned a bit as well. This little symbol for simulations, a real world application, some videos, and a study guide. All other ways a student can learn a particular topic. But if I go ahead into here, I can click start. You can actually see some of this content. You're all good to go. You're more than welcome to browse it. You can see everything else. So if you just want to explore CK12, you can do that. If you say, hey, I really like this option and I want to make sure to find that later, and I found it easier to find it on CK12, I'm going to go ahead and click on my toolbar and click Add to Library. So if I click Add to Library there, that lesson is going to be added to my library, and that will make it really easy for me to find when I'm inside Schoology. So just keep that in mind, that if you're browsing and you really like something and you want to kind of bookmark it for yourself, go ahead and do that. You would need to make sure that you are logged into CK12 with the same email address as you used for Schoology. None of your students need to do that. They're going to access everything through Schoology, but if you want to kind of browse or customize or create content, you can even go back to this whole lesson at the beginning, and I'm just going to give you a 2-second option right here. This customize option, I could start playing around with this. And we do trainings all about customizing our Flexbooks, so definitely go ahead and check out that if you want to do that. But anything that you add to your library or that you customize or create will always show up in that library. And so that's where you'd want to make sure that that was available. Now, the really important thing is making sure that your students can access this and learn from here. So I'm going to actually go over to Schoology, and I'm going to click on a class section that I'm working with. And within this class, if I wanted to make a new assignment for my students, I would click on Add Materials, and then I would click on the CK12 app. So this is a case where it's already been installed. I'm good to go. If you see that CK12 app, someone in your school or district has taken care of this for you already, and you don't even need to find a new key and secret. You are good to go. So I can go ahead and click on that app. It's going to open up that environment, and you'll see that it looks pretty similar to the CK12 site we were just on. It's a little more streamlined. We wanted to make it easier to access within here. But I could go to my library, just like I did there, and you'll see right here this projectile motion for an object launched at an angle. And if I go ahead and I open that up, then I'm back on that same piece right from here. Now, I can go ahead and I can preview what my students would see. This is the same view that your students are going to see. You'll see examples. You'll see there's an embedded simulation right here. There's some further reading options, some summary, and they even have practice, which you could preview as well. And that goes with this lesson. So when it's attached like that, where it says practice right there, when I click assign at the top here, I'm going to assign the whole lesson and the practice. And that attached practice is what is going to be scored. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to make an assignment. And now, the one thing about Schoology is that based on the way we're allowed to integrate with them, I do want to go ahead back to this projectile motion thing. And after I assign it, I need to do one thing if I do nothing else. I'm going to go ahead I'm going to click edit. And then I'm going to enable grading. So unless you enable grading, CK12 has nowhere to push back the grades to. So within Schoology, pick your content, click assign, open it up, and click enable grading. Now I can set this lesson to be worth 50 points. I can pick a due date that I might want. Let's say it's going to be due next Friday. And I'm going to put it in a category. So we're going to put it in, let's say, assignments. I can do anything else I need to do in here. I could pick a grading period. So I don't have any set, so we're just going to leave it under no grading period, and I'm going to click Save Changes. So just make sure that even if you don't change anything else, you do enable that grading in order for that to work within that particular piece. So now if I clicked on this, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And I can see, just like my student would access it when they clicked on that assignment link, this window with content in it. As a teacher, I get one screen in between. And that screen allows me to see my class reports right here, or to preview the assignment directly. Now, if I click preview assignment, it's going to show me exactly what my students would see, except that I preview practice and they would have a start practice option. But all of this text is the same. All of these options under the toolbar for related content where they could go ahead and explore more in these interactive simulations, all of those are options to work with. And sometimes I even find it helpful to click on the expand to full screen, and then you get the full width of CK12 to work with, and the toolbar is not going to take over the whole screen. So I can see my related content there. I can even see any notes or highlights. It looks like I started highlighting something further down. See where that is. There we go. And you could delete this or add any new notes. So all of those are options to kind of see it and work with it, either within the framework of Schoology or expanded to a full screen. So that's one option. I made that simple assignment for this lesson. I want to go from there. Let's go back to my course and let's talk about assigning maybe some of that related content. So if I click add materials and I click on the CK12 app again, I'm going to, instead of pulling something from my library that I already tagged to it, I'm just going to browse CK12. So let's pick maybe our 7th grade math book. So once again, I'm trying to stay in the newer 2.0 world just because it has some of the best resources. It has that content, that practice attached already. So if I go in here and I pick, let's say, expressions, equations, and inequalities, and maybe we're going to have equivalent expressions. Start page, we have some extra reading options. I could say, let's go to maybe something else. There we go. We got some Plix interactives and a video. So let's go ahead and start that section. So I could assign this lesson as it is. You can see we have embedded interactivity, even some inline questions for our middle school math content, all sorts of options. And I could go ahead and I could assign this lesson as it is. Or I could say, I want to check out some of that related content. So if I went to the related content option and I clicked on, let's say, saving money with coupons, and I opened up that Plix interactive, I could check, see what kind of happens here. This is the same thing students would play with. They'd get to see, they could play with some questions, add some pieces, and I can make this assignment by clicking the Create Assignment button at the top. And that would be the same button I would click for our Plix interactives or our simulations. And once again, I'm going to go down to the bottom of there. I'm going to click Edit. Go ahead, there we go. And I'm going to enable grading. And our Plix interactives and simulations are really full or no credit. They are a chance for students to learn more. So I'm going to say you get 10 points for working your way through here. I'm not going to set a due date. I don't need that one in this case. I do have to pick a category. It's going to go under assignments, and I'm going to save my changes. So you can make an assignment directly from core content, or you can make an assignment from that related content. You're welcome to go ahead and browse through and save that content in your library, or just find it and browse as you go through on CK12. Now, I'm going to go back to some assignments that maybe my students in this test class have done instead of the ones I just made, so you can get a sense of what that progress in that report looks like. So if I click on this practice option, remember I get that middle screen that the students don't see where I can preview the assignment or I can see the full class report. So here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up this class report. It's going to pop it into a new window. And you'll see that I have 4 students in this class and they've done some work on the older ones, but these new saving money with coupons one and the projectile motion one and some other ones I recently assigned, they haven't gotten to yet. Totally understandable. In a CK12 class report, our learning opportunities like video and real world applications and Plix get check marks or they haven't been completed yet. And then quizzes work cleanly as a assessment score. So here I have 67%. You can see Stephen got 8 out of 12 correct. And you can actually drill down into the time they spent there as well as the questions and answers. The student would see it marked wrong. You as the teacher also get the correct answer marked in your lesson. And students would have the opportunity to see that correct answer after the due date if you set a due date. So I can go ahead and explore this particular quiz. Let's click on Katie. It looks like she tried this twice One's got a 78.5% and one's a 91.6% because I created a quiz that allowed them to have more than one attempt on it. Totally fine. And once again, the detailed level pieces. Practice is the other piece where you might have a slightly different score for students, but most students will probably hit 100%. And that's because the goal of practice is to help students learn. So they get 100% when they, let's say, complete their homework or complete this assignment with a goal of 10 correct. So in this case, Stephen managed to get 10 questions correct by doing 12 questions, 5 easy correct, 5 out of 7 medium correct. And based on the questions that he got and the answers that he put, you can see first try, second try. We have kind of a general skill level from beginning all the way to mastery, and you can see that he's got a decent understanding of this content. He's pretty good to go. Katie here, however, 10 out of 19 questions. So when I taught high school math, I always said to my kids that if they did their homework, they came in, even if they got one wrong, they still got credit for doing their homework. So think about this score as that credit, but that maybe the skill level is helpful for you to understand exactly how they're doing and how they're learning. And so you can go ahead and explore and work your way through that class report. Now, that class report also shows up under your gradebook as that score value. So remember, I didn't have a grading period, so we're gonna have to go to no grading period so I can see my scores. And you'll see here that the 100% in CK12 for this practice translated to the full 20 points in Schoology, 100%, 100%. And this one, that Jumpstart was only 20%, meaning it's not that he struggled with the content, he just didn't finish that content. He only got 2 correct and has a bunch of ways to go before he's actually good to kind of submit that and go from there. But he did turn it in, so at least you saw that he was starting to do that work, and that kind of translated to there. The video and Plix, all these check marks got full 5-point credit, 10-point credit, 5-point credit for this real world application and more. So all of those are options. By enabling that grading after I made the assignments, as soon as students open this up, click turn in, it will populate the gradebook for you in Schoology. So you don't need to do anything else if you just need that grade score. But if you want to jump into those detailed pieces, oh, I closed it up. If I want to jump into those detailed pieces, I'm going to go back to the materials, click on that piece, and then I'm going to open up my class report to drill down and see what questions were happening, how students were doing, whether they were being proficient or not, under that view reports pop-up. The other thing that CK12 offers, if I click on preview the assignment, so once again, this is like I'm looking at it inside the same view my students would look at it. And I'm going to expand it just so you can see kind of the full screen. But under this toolbar where you got to that related content option here, you're going to want to check out Insights. Now, Insights is available for 2.0 lessons. So this is why I highly recommend staying in this nice, streamlined, clean environment with our annotation tools and our related content. But if I click on this, remember Stephen had a proficient skill level on here. Katie was just beginning. This Jumpstart student hasn't turned it in yet. They've only gotten 2 right so far, so we can't even determine their skill level yet. They're not really going at it yet. But in addition to that skill level, which you got in reports, there are a couple really key pieces. One is the time on lesson, especially as we all think about remote learning, that can be extremely helpful for tracking and saying, okay, this student spent a minute staring at a spyglass, almost 2 minutes, didn't bother to try this interactive, jumped all the way down here, and that's probably why he hasn't bothered to finish his homework or do anything else. Let's look at another student. 7 minutes here. Okay, spent 35 seconds checking that out a little bit. 2 minutes trying to answer some questions. These are great because these questions give feedback to the students so they can learn in the moment. And you can actually see where they spent their time and how that worked out. We also just recently launched this engagement score. So Jumpstart did this one after it was launched, and you can see the engagement is low. Just kind of skipped through it, didn't actually try stuff. For these other students who actually opened up, tried those questions, worked their way through, they get a higher engagement percentage. And that's based on what's available there. Are there videos? Are there interactives? Are there inline questions? Did they make notes and annotate? Kind of how did they interact with this lesson? And that's going to give you a sense of, hey, this kid just skipped straight through it. maybe that's because they already knew it and they were able to do that practice successfully, or they skipped through it and they're struggling. Well, then the first thing I would say as a teacher is it's time to go back and actually try out some of these pieces and learn the material before just blowing through the practice. We are launching, as Lindsay gave you a little preview, class level insights. So you'll soon get to kind of compare your class as a whole and even get some recommendations. Students that are successful all tried this video. Students that are struggling are missing these questions. Different pieces as you go from there. So we talked to you a little bit about what our options were. You saw how to assign content and make sure that you enable grading, and how to access our insights from the toolbar when you preview an assignment. And that will be available for 2.0 lessons, both for quizzes and practice. But let's start what we have in Q&A, and maybe I can help answer some extra questions as we go.
Sure, Katie, our team's been answering some questions via text, but we've flagged a couple for you. How about if you assign a reading to your students, how do they answer the review questions that go along with it?
So when I assign this lesson, I'm assigning this lesson and the attached practice at the bottom. I'm going to just close this so you can see it cleanly. So I'm assigning the digital practice that goes here. Some of our content, especially some of the kind of science content, I know has extra review questions at the bottom. Most of those have been pulled into our adaptive practice, so you don't need to assign those separately. They're just kind of questions for students to get thinking. You are more than welcome to have them also submit something else. If you don't want the digital practice score and you just want included practice or questions, let me see if there's an example in here. So I'm going to go ahead and bump this down and go back to these materials. And if I have a science example, that might be helpful. Oh, I know there's one here because we just did one on projectile motion. So for this, if I didn't necessarily want them to do the practice, I didn't need that score, and instead I wanted the actual questions and something done, then what I might do is instead of assigning this particular lesson through here, I would just give them a link, and you can pull anything from here. So this is the same physics book. I could go ahead and I could open this lesson on CK12, click start, and copy this link at the top and just share that with them in there and say, upload your answers in whatever format you want for Schoology. Are they uploading a doc? Are they answering something in there? I could do other pieces. So that's an option. Similarly here, if I went on related content, I know I didn't show you an interactive, but if I clicked on this, I could do the same thing. If I don't need a score in my gradebook, then I don't need to click this assign button. And notice I'm not accessing this from Schoology, so I actually can't even assign this right now. That would be assigning on CK12. But I could just copy this link and share it that way. But in general, I'd say most of these questions, these review questions here, have been pulled into the digital practice. So I wouldn't worry so much about the review questions in there, and I might just assign the lesson and say, there's some great review questions to get you started, but make sure to do the attached practice.
Okay, then a question, you were talking about notes and highlighting. Do those appear only to the teacher, or do the students see them? Where do those live?
Those live in the account. So if I highlight this, the upward velocity undergoes constant downward acceleration, and I make a note here, this is going to show up. I'm going to just expand this so I can see the full view under my toolbar and my notes. I see this right here, and that would be the same for a student. So if they were taking notes, you get a sense of whether or not they engaged with the content. But right now, I would say I've seen some teachers have students screenshot their notes just to share them with them if they want a sense of some of the good notes that they took.
Okay, Katie, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because our Q&A window is strangely empty right at the moment. We're caught up. So now it's kind of a last call for anybody who's interested and getting some more questions in the Q&A. And then let me give you just a little additional information that I think will help you as you're exploring CK12 and our integration. One thing is we're really thrilled to announce that we have a brand new self-paced certified educator program. We just launched it. So if you were intrigued by what you saw today and really want to dive deeper into all CK12 has to offer, consider joining this community of educators, becoming certified at no cost and on your own schedule. So if you're interested in that, go to ck12.org/certified. You can read more about the program, and then there's a join button. And again, you'll be taken to a CK12 self-paced class where you can just get better at CK12 and learn more about our tools. We posted it earlier, but this is a tinyurl.com/CK12 Schoology 2020. That is a resource page that might be helpful to you later on as you're reviewing what our integration looks like with Schoology. We do have some interesting things on our YouTube channel. I don't know if you've ever checked it out, but you can go to youtube.com/CK12 Foundation, and you'll find a wide range of videos from content tutorials to testimonials to previous webinars. And then I wanted to call special attention to a playlist that we have that's called Quick Overviews. We've recently updated this, and it includes some bite-sized videos that are only a couple minutes in length. And I think that really helps you get started as you're trying to do, some simple things on CK12, but just need a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a tutorial. You might check out those quick overviews for help. Also, we're still doing webinars this month. We've got one next week called CK12, a solution for flexible learning, where it's more of an overview of CK12 and talking about how we are able to help in whether you're fully in class, or some blend in between. So you're welcome to join us for that. And then we have one on CK12 and Google Classroom. Since you guys are Schoology users, I'm assuming that doesn't maybe apply to you as much, but know that we have one on Classroom coming up if that interests you or any of your colleagues. And so I just want to really thank you for taking time and joining us today. You are going to be supported by our team. If there's questions that we did not answer today that we can help you with, support@ck12.org is a great place to email. And then don't forget to let your social networks know about your participation in our webinar. You can follow us at CK12 Foundation. So at this point, if any of you need to jump off, that's kind of our formal presentation, but I'm going to kick it back over to Katie, and we'll continue to make our way through the Q&A window.
Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. We had a question about kind of other areas. So I'm going to go back to CK12 for a second so you get a sense of the subjects. And actually, I'm going to close this just so that you get to make sure that we're showing it through Schoology. So if I'm doing this for my courses, inside my lesson, if I want to make assignments, that's the best way to do it. So let's go ahead and open the app from within here. And we get to see that subjects menu that we worked off of. There were some questions for various math topics. So you'll see within our 2.0 lessons, we have grades 6 through pre-calculus. And then we have also probability and statistics and calculus that haven't been converted to 2.0 yet, but you're more than welcome to do that conversion. And someone asked about college level or college prep. So we actually even have like a college algebra book that's intermediate and elementary algebra. So that might be helpful. That first chapter is kind of review content, and we have other pieces there. And one thing that I didn't show you within here, let me go ahead and open this lesson. As you're in any particular lesson, you should be able to work your way through this lesson, assign it accordingly. That's just a basic introduction. And then we have this with the attached practice. So I can go ahead and I can assign it right there. Let's see. We have a question about assigning a lesson through the website. If you were on CK12 and you created an assignment to a CK12 class and you want it to show up in Schoology, that will not work. You do need to do what I just did here, which is open this up from within Schoology. And then you'll actually be able to see that content and work your way through. So if you have content and you want it to show up here, then make sure that you are assigning it within here. And then you'll actually be able to access that and go from there.
All right, Katie, I think we did it. Thank you again all for participating in our webinar today. Support@ck12.org if you have any further questions, and we hope to see you again in the future. Best wishes to all of you as you're starting your school years. We'll see ya.